What if a plane could recharge itself mid-air and never need to stop? This aircraft isn't just faster. It solves a problem most people don't even realize exists. Out in some of the most remote parts of the world, life doesn't work the way most people imagine. No highways, no delivery trucks, sometimes not even proper roads. And yet people still live there. Families, communities, entire towns, completely cut off from the systems the rest of the world depends on every single day. Now think about something simple. Groceries, medicine, fuel, things you can get in minutes. In these places, they can take days or weeks because there's only one way to get them in, by air. Planes and helicopters aren't just transportation here, they're survival. But even that system isn't stable. In some northern regions, they rely on something that sounds almost unreal: ice roads. For a few weeks each year, frozen lakes turn into temporary highways. Trucks move supplies across them. And then just like that, they disappear, melt away, gone. And lately, it's getting worse. Warmer temperatures mean those roads don't last as long. Sometimes they don't form at all, which means entire communities are left with even fewer options than before. So now imagine this. No roads, no reliable ground transport, and a growing dependence on aircraft just to keep life moving. That's the reality most people never see. But even when planes deliver supplies, the problem still isn't solved. Because what happens next is where things really start to break down. So here's the part nobody thinks about. Supplies finally arrive by air. Problem solved, right? Not even close. Because most of those flights don't land where people actually live. They land at larger regional airports, sometimes dozens, even hundreds of miles away. And from there, the journey isn't over. It's just beginning. Now picture this. You've got food, medical supplies, maybe even emergency equipment sitting at an airport. But the village that needs it? It's deep in the wilderness. No roads, no clear path, just rough terrain, forests, ice, or rocky land stretching for miles. This is what experts call the last mile problem. And in these regions, that last mile is brutal. Getting supplies from the airport to the actual community becomes slow, expensive, and sometimes dangerous. Weather conditions can change instantly. Ice, wind, and freezing temperatures make travel unpredictable. And every delay? It matters. Because most of these deliveries aren't optional. They're urgent, time-sensitive, sometimes life-saving. And suddenly, you realize something. Even with aircraft, the system is still broken. So what if aircraft could skip all of this entirely? What if they didn't need airports, or roads, or any infrastructure at all? Because that's exactly the idea engineers started chasing next. Wait, you're watching right now but not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button so we can move on with the video. You did? Okay, cool. Now back to the video. And this is where things start getting really interesting. Because instead of trying to fix the system, someone decided to rethink it completely. Meet the Cavarite X7. At first glance, it sounds like another futuristic aircraft concept. But it's not trying to be flashy. It's trying to solve a real problem, and that changes everything. This aircraft does something unusual. It takes off like a helicopter, straight up, no runway needed. But once it's in the air, it transforms. It flies like a regular airplane, faster, more efficient, covering long distances without the limitations of traditional vertical aircraft. And that combination? It's rare. Most designs out there are stuck choosing one or the other, either flexibility or efficiency. But the X7 blends both. And it's not built for short city hops or experimental flights. It's designed for real-world operations, moving people, cargo, and critical supplies to places that are nearly impossible to reach, which is exactly why it's getting so much attention. But its most shocking feature isn't how it flies. It's what it does while it's already in the air. At the core of this aircraft is something that feels like two different eras of aviation colliding. Because inside the X7, you don't just have one system, you have two working together. On one side, there's a traditional turboprop engine, the kind that's been trusted in aviation for decades. Reliable, proven, built for endurance. And then, layered on top of that, you have electric motors and onboard batteries. Clean, efficient, and modern. This creates a hybrid propulsion system. And that's where things start to get clever. The traditional engine provides consistent power and long-range capability. It keeps the aircraft moving efficiently over distance. But the electric system? That's what handles vertical lift and enhances performance where precision matters most. So instead of replacing old technology, it builds on it. That's the difference here. This isn't an experimental idea trying to reinvent aviation overnight. It's a practical solution, something designed to actually work outside of perfect conditions. And that balance between reliability and innovation is exactly what makes it powerful. But the real breakthrough happens after takeoff. Because once this aircraft is in the air, it starts doing something almost no one expects. And this is where everything changes, because once the X7 is in the air, it's not just flying, it's actually recharging itself. Not on the ground, not plugged in somewhere, but mid-flight, while it's already moving. It sounds almost impossible at first. But here's how it works. The aircraft's turboprop engine doesn't just provide thrust, it also generates over 100 horsepower of electricity. That energy is fed directly back into the onboard batteries, essentially refilling them while the plane is still flying. So instead of draining power and needing to stop, it's constantly recovering it. Now here's the part that really flips everything. The aircraft only uses about 20% of its battery for takeoff. That's the most energy-intensive phase. But once it transitions into forward flight, the system starts recharging. And that recharge, it happens fast. From empty to full takes about an hour. But since it only used 20%, it can recover that in roughly 12 minutes, which means by the time it's cruising, it's already preparing itself for the next takeoff. Let that sink in for a second. No waiting, no downtime, no plugging in between flights. This isn't just efficiency, it's continuity. Because now the aircraft can land, load, and take off again almost immediately. Back-to-back missions, short hops, long routes, all without the one thing that slows every electric aircraft down: charging on the ground. And this one feature completely changes aviation economics. Because suddenly, the biggest limitation of electric flight just disappears. But that raises a bigger question. Why is ground charging such a massive problem in the first place? Here's the thing most people don't realize about electric aircraft. They're not limited by how far they can fly. They're limited by how long they have to sit still. Every time an electric aircraft lands, it needs to recharge. And that means waiting. Passengers wait, cargo waits, pilots wait. The entire operation just pauses. And in aviation, that's a problem, because most of these missions aren't casual trips. They're time-sensitive, medical evacuations, emergency deliveries, critical transport. Delays aren't just inconvenient. They can be serious. Now imagine running an operation like that. Every minute your aircraft is on the ground. It's not earning money. It's not moving people. It's not doing its job. It's just sitting there. That's why charging becomes more than a technical issue. It becomes an economic one. Operators want their aircraft in the air as much as possible. That's where value is created. That's where efficiency comes from, and this is exactly where most electric designs fall apart. But the X7? It removes that entire bottleneck. No charging stops, no waiting between missions, just continuous movement. And once you realize that, everything starts to shift. Because if it can stay in motion, then speed and cost start to matter even more. But speed and cost are where things get even crazier. Now you might be thinking, okay, it's efficient, but how does it actually perform? And this is where things take another jump. The X7 isn't just keeping up, it's outperforming. It's expected to reach speeds of around 280 miles per hour. That's roughly twice as fast as many of the electric air taxis currently being developed. And when you're covering long distances, that difference adds up quickly. But speed is only part of the story. Range is where it really starts to separate itself. Most electric vertical aircraft struggle to go beyond 100 miles before needing a recharge. The X7? It's aiming for around 500 miles. That's 5 times more. Suddenly, routes that didn't make sense before become possible. Regional travel, remote connections, long-distance supply runs, all without constant interruptions. And then there's cost. Operating this aircraft could be up to 75% cheaper per mile compared to traditional helicopters. That's not a small improvement, that's a shift. Because when costs drop that much, frequency increases. Flights become more accessible, more consistent, more practical. And that's when things start scaling. More flights, more connections, more communities reached. But the real engineering magic is hidden inside the wings. Because the way this aircraft actually lifts off is unlike anything you'd expect. At first, you'd expect something like this to rely on big spinning rotors, like a helicopter. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, the X7 hides its lifting system inside the wings themselves. 14 lift fans, built directly into the structure. Not exposed, not sticking out, just integrated into the aircraft's body in a way that almost feels invisible. And each one of those fans? It's powerful. We're talking around 300 horsepower per unit, and up to 800 pounds of thrust. Multiply that across the entire system, and suddenly you have enough lift to carry passengers, cargo, and everything in between, straight up off the ground. But here's where it gets clever. Those fans are only active during takeoff and landing. Once the aircraft starts moving forward, something changes. Panels close over the fans, sealing them inside the wings. And just like that, the aircraft transforms. No exposed components, no extra drag, just a clean aerodynamic shape, flying like a conventional airplane. Faster, smoother, more efficient. It's like switching modes from vertical lift to long-distance flight without losing performance in either. And that transition? It's what makes the entire system work. But here's the twist. This idea isn't actually new. Because decades ago, engineers tried something very similar. And it didn't end well. And here's the part most people don't see coming. This idea isn't new. Back in the 1960s, engineers were already experimenting with something similar. It was called the Ryan XV5 vertifan. The concept? Almost identical. Fans inside the wings, vertical takeoff, transition into forward flight. On paper, it looked revolutionary. But in reality, it failed. Not because the idea was wrong, but because the technology wasn't ready. Control systems were limited, materials weren't advanced enough. And in some cases, human error played a role. The concept was ahead of its time, so it disappeared. For decades, it sat there, unfinished, almost forgotten. But now, everything that was missing back then finally exists. Modern electric motors, advanced flight computers, precision control systems, lightweight materials, all the pieces that didn't exist before are here now. And suddenly, that old idea doesn't look impossible anymore. It looks inevitable. The X7 isn't just a new aircraft. It's the evolution of something that couldn't work. Until now. But can it actually survive real-world conditions? Because building something impressive in theory is one thing. Making it work in the harshest environments on Earth is something else entirely. Now, this is where the difference becomes clear, because a lot of futuristic aircraft look great until the weather turns bad. Cold temperatures, ice buildup, strong winds, unpredictable conditions. That's where many designs struggle. They're built for controlled environments, not reality. But the X7? It's being built for exactly those conditions. Think about where it's meant to operate. Remote northern regions, places where temperatures drop far below freezing, where weather reports aren't always reliable, and conditions can change in minutes. This aircraft isn't avoiding those environments. It's designed for them. Its systems are built to handle extreme cold. Its structure is designed to stay reliable under stress. And its performance isn't dependent on perfect skies. That's what makes it different. Because in these regions, reliability isn't optional. It's everything. And when you combine that with vertical takeoff, long range, and continuous operation, you get something that can actually function where others can't. And this is why even the military is paying attention. Because when something works in the harshest conditions, it suddenly becomes valuable in ways most people don't expect. Now here's where things start to get disruptive. Because when you look at how helicopters are used today, something interesting shows up. Around 65% of their missions aren't complex rescues or hovering operations. They're simple point-to-point transport, moving people, moving cargo, getting from A to B. And that's exactly where the X7 fits in. Except it does those same missions better. It's faster, it travels farther, and it does it at a significantly lower cost, which means operators can run more flights more often without burning through budgets. And that changes everything. Because suddenly, the advantage helicopters had, vertical takeoff, is no longer exclusive. The X7 can do that too, but with the added benefit of airplane-level efficiency once it's in the air. So instead of choosing between flexibility and performance, you get both. And when you scale that across industries, cargo, passenger transport, emergency response, the impact becomes massive. More access, lower costs, faster response times. This isn't just competition, it's replacement. But none of this matters unless it actually flies. Because right now it's still moving from concept to reality. So where does all of this stand right now? The X7 isn't just an idea anymore. A full-scale prototype is already under development. Engineers are actively building it, testing systems, refining the design, step by step turning it into something real. And the timeline? The first full flight is expected around 2027. Now that might sound far away, but in aviation terms, that's close. Very close. Because once that flight happens, everything changes. It becomes proof. Proof that this hybrid system works, that vertical takeoff and long-range flight can exist together, that mid-air charging isn't just theory, it's practical. And if those tests succeed, this doesn't stay limited to one aircraft. It becomes a new category, a new way of thinking about regional travel, about connecting places that have always been difficult to reach, about reducing reliance on infrastructure entirely. And when you step back, that's the bigger picture. This isn't just about speed or efficiency, it's about access. And if it works, it could change how the world moves forever. But the real question is, will it actually scale? And when you think back to the beginning, a plane that charges itself mid-air almost sounds unreal. But this isn't just about technology. It's about changing how people live, especially in places the world often forgets. So what do you think? Is this the future of aviation? Because if it is, we're just getting started.